What will the future of real estate look like? Is conventional real estate dying? Join us while we dive into conversations to explore that very question and attempt to demystify current and potentially new real estate trends with the disruptors themselves. Good morning, Dan. I am so stoked to have you on. I know we've been chatting about this for the last couple months, and you have been super busy over at HonestDoor. So before we get started, could you please introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background?
Dan from HonestDoor. And HonestDoor is a real estate portal. It's an app. It's a website that's national. And I run it here with a bunch of really good people, headquartered out of Edmonton. And
How cold is it in Edmonton right now?
I think it's my head almost blew up this morning dropping off the kids. It's probably, I think it was close to minus 40.
It's not much warmer down here in Calgary.
Cold place. Someone's got to be here.
Somebody has to be here. That's where the opportunity is. So what did you do before HonestDoor?
I did a bunch of stuff. I had a company right at a university with a friend of mine. It was actually digital billboards. So we actually created some software around it too. We put digital billboards all over the province. So we're getting into BC, and then eventually got acquired by the Jim Pattison Group out of Vancouver. That was pretty cool. Had some money. With that money, put it into real estate here in Edmonton. Had I put it really anywhere else in the world, I feel like I would have had 10
Lessons learned, lessons learned.
Yeah, lessons learned. I put it into Edmonton, put it into a nice neighborhood, like an older neighborhood called Glenora here in Edmonton. Picked up a bunch of properties kind of next to future LRT stops, did a whole bunch of rezonings and flipped a bunch of properties and upzoned. And that was kind of my game for a little while. And then, that game kind of dried up. And I wanted to start doing larger development projects. And then I thought, hey, these are expensive and I don't really know everything about them or anything about them. Maybe I should just try another startup. And so kind of jumped into HonestDoor based on all the real estate findings I discovered over the couple of years that I did real estate development or rezoning stuff.
So you've built something based on your own pain points, it sounds like, and a history of creating a startup.
Yeah, I went to school actually in UCLA and discovered Zillow down in the US.
Ah, yes.
And Zillow was just insane. And then you come back here, especially a couple of years ago in Edmonton or Canada, had nothing. And so I was like, wow, this is crazy. Why can't we get sold prices? Why can't we do a Zestimate? Why can't we do all these things? So that's what we set out to do.
I love that. I'm sure you know who Tom Ferry is.
Yeah.
He talks about Zestimates all the time and gives realtors some tips and tricks on challenging Zestimate pricing. And, he has a very gregarious personality. So he made Zillow popular here.
I think we were the very first ones to create like a Zestimate. It was our HonestDoor price here in Canada. And we did it for free, and you could do it for any property in the country. So it was pretty fun. And now we have like tens of thousands of people subscribe to receive their home price estimate every month. So it's pretty cool to see that people have been kind of attached to it, and people send us in information if we get it wrong, and we change it, and then we put it back into the algorithm, kind of like rebake the cake with the new. So it's pretty
I love
fun.
that. It's like a Wikipedia format to a degree, right? Where people can go and update based on maybe they added an extra bedroom or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So then do you have a history of AI or machine learning, or do you have somebody on your team that specialize in that? Or
we've worked with a bunch of kind of AI companies, AI contractors. We now have like our own team, so we kind of do it internally. We've had like over the number of years, everyone kind of add their piece or their tech to our big tech stack. So we have a lot built out. I mean, it's actually like a decently sized machine that we have running. I mean, not only is there AI for the property estimates, but it takes data from different sources all over the country. It aggregates it into one spot. It cleans the data, kind of like normalizing it so it'll all be read into the same place. And then out comes, the finished product. So there's a lot going on, but no, I definitely don't have any.
When I was in corporate, I always used to say, I just hire people smarter than me. And I think there's something to that. You can't be awesome at literally everything. So, and you were leveraging AI before. Now in 2024, I feel like every time I open my email, it's AI is like taking over. So you guys were leveraging that long before it was the buzzword du jour.
Yeah, I was still pretty buzzy. I think the buzzword before AI was machine learning.
Machine learning, yeah.
we're using machine learning. And then, I mean, machine learning, I think, is like a facet of AI anyway. But yeah, we've been buzzing around the buzzwords for a while.
I love that. So while we're on this topic, can you just elaborate a little bit more about what HonestDoor is and what they do for those that may be hiding under a rock and I haven't heard of you yet?
HonestDoor is a place, and it's changed, but essentially it's kind of like the Google search for real estate. So you go to your computer, you go to honestdoor.com, and there's a search bar, and you search any address you want in the country. So you search an address, and then it tells you all these things. It tells you city assessment history, gives you sold pricing. Sometimes in Alberta, we have pricing that goes back 100 years, so way
Oh
before
my
the,
gosh.
and we have land size, all these different things. And we have what we think your property is worth. So there's a lot of info. We have permits, if you have a deck permit, hot tub permit, roof permit, whatever, all that information is aggregated in the same spot. Now we're offering people to sell their property using HonestDoor because now we're a real estate brokerage. And so what you do is you can sell your property and we charge a flat fee of $500.
Which
So
is wild, by the way.
it's way less expensive than doing it the other way. I mean,
Yeah.
some people are like, well, it's free the other way. And we'll get into that. And we might actually
Mhm.
go that path and then kind of pay the $500 upon successful sale. Right
Mhm.
now it's up front. We do the $500 on successful sale for some of our like larger corporate clients, like builders and developers who have like a big condo building coming up. But essentially, you get the same service. You go up on realtor.ca, all the syndicate sites, you pay $500 and you stay there. And, we can help along the way. I don't know what the real difference is. I mean, there's obviously really good agents and they provide a little bit of a different service. To me, the best thing to do now for people is that you need to get your eyeballs. And so if you can get up on our site, you can get up on realtor.ca and all the other MLS syndicate sites, your house will sell.
Especially in this market, right? Like we're definitely in a seller's market at this point in
But
time in Alberta.
the debate would be, even if you weren't in a seller's market, what else can you do to sell your home? So I'm of the
Mhm.
debate where I don't think there's anything you can do. I think you've done 99.5% of the way. You can stand at the intersection waving flags, but will that extra bit sell your house? I don't know.
Yeah, I had a conversation with one of the co-owners of Bode, and we had a very similar kind of conversation. And I'd be really curious to get your perspective on this. Like, do you think that there will be like a tiered kind of system? Like, there's going to be people that are like, no, I can sell this. I have the tools, especially if I have a site like HonestDoor or Bode or whatever. There's probably others. And then there'll be people who want more of like a boutique or a hand-holding experience, maybe they're first-time home buyer or seller. What is your perspective on that?
So I don't think real estate agents as we know them are going away. I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of them. Different people provide different services. I think maybe the bad ones will eventually go away.
Oh my
Um,
God, I hope so.
Sort of fill a void that some people who have the time or independent, maybe have some experience, or they don't have experience, or really into saving money. Those are the people that we cater to. I mean, some people help you with staging and we'll do all these other extras. We don't do any of that. And so I always think there's going to be space for good agents, or maybe they know something about the market that you don't. We're here to fill a void. Maybe we're the Flair Air option. I don't even like comparing us to Flair. So I think we'll eventually both get to the same place. Your house will sell.
100%.
Will one of the experiences feel better? That's to be decided, right? Some people feel really bad after they sold their house, maybe with an agent, and they're like, oh man, there were so many fees. And some people feel great. And there's a lot of people, a lot of different opinions. So I think we're just going to be a part of that market. I don't think agents as we know it are going anywhere.
I would agree with you. I think there will be space for both, and it comes down to personality and the experience somebody's looking for.
Yeah. And we work
Um,
with real estate agents. I mean, we have data, we have widgets for leads.
that's a great segue. Let's talk about that. When we were chatting, perhaps it was November, you were rolling that out. Do you want to speak to the lead gen piece a little bit?
We have widgets that we place on other real estate agent websites. And so what happens is like a lot of the agents right now have like, hey, come to my website, Amy sells homes, and there'll be like a form where you can put in your home valuation and they'll send you a home valuation. They have to do it manually. This way,
Mhm.
they go to your site, they plug it in, we power the estimate, and then they also get that information. And then they could come back to that person and be like, hey, HonestDoor is unbelievable. They said your house was worth 686. we think you could actually get 750 for your house based on, whatever
Mhm.
analysis we did. Let's connect. So it becomes a great segue, and that consumer gets something right away that they otherwise wouldn't get. So we work with a lot of agents on a number of different projects, but this is our most popular thing we work with them.
Yeah, I love that because it is a very complex point of pricing. So it's nice to be able to provide them something and then do further analysis. And then most agents, if they're doing it right, would be able to say, we've added XYZ. And so now we really think that your value is this. So it's a good starting point. Like you said, it kickstarts the conversation, if you will, with the potential
And
consumer.
you can use that. You can use it for advertising on Facebook, like an actual free home valuation. I think everyone
Mhm.
has free instant home valuation. Then you might
Yeah,
not get one for 2 weeks.
I know. And it's like
That
they've
one.
already moved on to someone else by that point. Have you received any challenges when you've been introducing both like the lead gen or now your new listing service or even from your inception? I'm sure there was some rumblings in the marketplace. Was there?
There's still some holdouts. I won't mention which boards. They may not hold out any longer, so I won't mention them yet.
We'll talk in a couple months and then you
I'll
can.
talk in a couple months and I'll really talk about that. But I think, yeah, with anything, I think people maybe get the wrong impression, like, they don't play by the rules or this or that. But I think that we were playing within the rules, and this was just kind of a newer, I don't know, idea. And this whole $500 list your home on the MLS thing sounds competitive to the industry, but it's not. I mean, mere postings exist,
Mhm.
the listings exist. We're just trying to do it as seamlessly as possible. And I don't think that everyone can do $500 listings. Like if you went to your real estate agent and said, "Hey, can you list my house? And I only want to pay $500." They can't do it because they're not a company. They don't have funding. And if they did
Mhm.
10 deals, make 5 grand, that's not enough to survive. We can do it. They can't do it. So they have to provide a bigger service and charge more money for it. But yeah, lots of challenges. Some of the realtors, maybe didn't like us at first, but I think that now we're part of most of the boards across the entire country. So everyone's cool with it now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about that. So you started with Alberta and then moved into BC and now you're across the whole country?
We have partners in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, so we are
Mhm.
not physically yet there. We don't have an office there. We don't have an HonestDoor presence there. You could go to Manitoba and Saskatchewan on our website, and you can find out a whole bunch of information on those properties. And then we work with referral partners there. But everywhere else, like we just got granted PEI that we're super pumped about.
Yay!
Yeah, that's your hometown.
My
There's a lot of
hometown.
Americans, the East Coast is hot. So now the Americans who are so used to Zillow too, and there's actually a lot of investment coming from the US to the Atlantic provinces. They can now go to our site, find out information, and buy the home that they wanted over there. And we're actually toying with the idea of representing the buy side because we get
Okay, that was one of my questions. I love that. Carry on.
there's a bit of a conflict. We want people to list freely with us. We want them to offer commission, but we also don't want to intercept that lead. But we also get so many inbound saying, "Hey, HonestDoor is cool. It's a cool tech company. We trust you guys. You guys have been around. Can you represent us in this transaction?" And so what we're trying to do, we're trying to figure out what that perfect number is, but we're going to give cash back because
Mhm.
we're not like a typical brokerage who just takes a big whack of the cash. So if we can try to pull off something like 70% of all the commission back to the person buying, we'll try that and see how that goes. We're not in that space yet, but that's where we may go.
So one of the things I love about HonestDoor, and correct me if I'm wrong, is around 2019 when HonestDoor came to life. It has grown and pivoted and evolved so much in such a relatively really short period of time if you look at it. So it seems like, and please again correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to have your finger on the pulse and you're always looking to see how can we expand and really add value back to the consumers.
Yeah, I mean, our focus was transparency. That still remains our mission. Even now with these real estate commissions, it's all fully transparent. You know exactly how much HonestDoor makes. You know exactly how much everyone involved makes. That's super, super important because I think before it used to be like, oh, I didn't know what I was going to get charged. And then you get charged, and then it's a lot, and you still don't know
Mhm.
where all that money flowed. So transparency and consumers is still our obsession. And I don't know that we've pivoted so much, but there's newer opportunities and we slowly roll them out because we're still a small team and we can't do everything. But we work with large companies like billion-plus-dollar companies. We work with them on a data side. We work with companies on mortgage renewals. There's a lot we kind of do on the business to business section, but our core remains the consumer site, which is honestdoor.com and working with the consumers. Because before it was just the site. So you go,
Mhm.
you'd see all this information and be like, okay, that house is worth $1 million. Cool. Look at what the neighbors are selling for. Look at what this is listed for, all this information. But that was it. And then you have to go back to a real estate agent that you might know and try to do the transaction and get all that comes with that. So now we're trying to be like, okay, you come to our site, you like it, we've shown you the information. Now you might as well work with us at that point.
100%. You're closing the loop there. And then you not only do residential, there's commercial as well, right?
Yeah, so commercial listings exist on realtor.ca. I don't know if everyone knows that or not, but they do. So we actually work with a lot of commercial teams to put their listings up on the MLS. But if you're just a person kind of hanging around Alberta on the site, you can click on any commercial building and you'll also get sold data, even if that's not from the MLS. So if you're, at a strip mall eating pizza and you're like, oh, I wonder what this building sold for. I don't know what people think, but you can click on that. You can literally open it up. It'll take you to that location. And you can click and say, this commercial building transacted for $5 million, 5 years ago, or this vacuum store hasn't transacted in 100 years. So it's a really cool tool for investors, people who are just curious to kind of poke around and see what everything's sold for.
I think that adding that level of transparency is so valuable. It's funny because I think some real estate boards try to do this, but in a very clunky manner. So you would know because BC, you have to disclose remuneration, both on the buyer side and the seller side. In theory, I love that. Freaking great idea. But I'm like, there has to be a better way of doing this. So I think what you're trying to do is also streamline that and be transparent without all the clunky paperwork.
We're trying. It takes time. And
Mhm.
even this whole thing with real estate mentality changing. I mean, we've seen such an uptick in traffic and really all our leads and our sales now. But this kind of thing does take a long time. I mean, I think if we just focused on like the B2B sales and selling data to big companies, I think we would have grown faster. But I think there's more of a prize if you can get it right on the consumer side and you can become the big national player. But it takes time and consumers need to change their mentality. And that can't happen overnight, even if it wasn't clunky, even if it was seamless. So it really takes time to get people to the website, get a natural organic following. So
Have you seen an uptick, I would say, in folks coming from larger centers like Ontario, where they might be a little bit more advanced on the tech side, to Alberta and investing and looking around and using your site? Do you have those sort of like KPIs on where your traffic's coming from?
we do. And I look at it all the time. I don't know the exact stats from Ontario to Alberta, or I'd share it. But even though we started in Alberta, and there's still a lot of people that live here and we're popular here, now most of our traffic, I don't know about most, but let's say half, is now coming from Ontario. Not just looking
Mhm.
at Ontario properties, like maybe that's just people from Ontario looking at Ontario properties, but it just shows that, yeah, how many more people live over there too. It's growing nationally. Every day we kind of increase in all the areas. Now we got to go to the Atlantic provinces and tell them to start using the site. I don't think they know about us yet.
Yeah, do you have a plan on rolling out and sort of like shaking the trees over there and making your presence known?
Not really. We don't have a marketing budget. We don't advertise at all. And we have millions of page views every month. It really is organic. It's like, oh, I heard from my lawyer, I heard from my friend, I was snow shoveling, whatever. So it's very cool. If we want to grow faster, we got to advertise. So I think we're going to try now. I think this is our year that we really want to grow. So we'll have to come up with a plan. So if anyone's listening to this and has a great plan to attack the East Coast.
We'll put your contact details below so people can reach out and pitch you on their amazing marketing ideas. I think with something like this, though, like perhaps a guerrilla marketing campaign, because you are so disruptive and it is new, you might get more traction with something like that than your traditional Facebook
Yeah.
ads or something. I don't know.
I mean, look, any type of marketing, I mean, that's a whole conversation for marketing people, isn't easy. And you never know what's going to work. Like, do you go on a bus bench, do you go on a billboard, do you do
Oh my
Facebook?
God.
Are none of them going to work? Are all of them going to work? It's pretty hard to tell.
It is. It's spaghetti on the wall, is what I like to say. And even with our team, we've tried some things and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is costing an arm and a leg. So back to your point about like agents or teams or brokerages and the cost of marketing and the cost of doing business or listing, etc. I'm just like, I get so many people who reach out and they're like, I want to be an agent. And I like to drill down, like, why? Why do you want to be an agent? Well, you think it's easy money. You're in for like a rude awakening if you want to be good, like if you really want to be good. And
Yeah.
so marketing, the elusive marketing.
Even for agents, Look, if we thought we could pull off, hey, we're going to put your house on the MLS for $30,000, we thought we could pull it off, we would try it. But
Hmm.
we didn't think that to be true. So we went with $500. But I still feel like I drive down the street and there's five different park benches with five different agents advertising
Hmm.
their name, their face, and their phone number. That's it. If it was like, I'll charge you this, I'll charge you that, I do some cleaning. I have no idea what the differentiator might be.
Hmm.
Crazy because I was like, how do you differentiate? Okay, this is a woman, this is a man, this is someone, putting their thumb up. I have no idea what the hell differentiating. But I mean, even for
Yeah.
agents, I know there's probably differentiating factors, but I feel like they
Yeah.
need to do a better job marketing themselves
Oh
as,
gosh, yeah.
and I don't know, what do I know?
No, I would agree with you. And I think that's why we're starting to see some, and we talked about this, like GPG does a really good job of their unique selling proposition and the guaranteed sold and trying to find ways and tell a story about how they are different. And I'm not with GPG, but a little shout out to them, I guess. But you do have to try to think outside the box and not just be a person with a phone in a picture saying, call me.
Well, because most agents forever, it's been a relationship business, like
Hmm.
But I feel like it has to be different than that. I don't care to have a relationship with everybody. We're just going to provide a great service for a really affordable price. That's our relationship. I'm not going to take you for coffee. I'm not going to talk to you for hours on the phone. I'm not going to do any of that. And I feel like that's the way it used to be. And maybe for a lot of people, that's just amazing.
Do you
Uh,
put signs up outside your listings?
we
Yeah.
will, because that would also help with marketing. And maybe we've
Mhm.
gone too far in the hole of no marketing, but yeah, I think we need to have some stuff.
Well, I mean, and that's just additional costs too, right? Like creating
Right.
the signs, paying, unless you're going to drive around and put them up yourself, which I mean, I tried to do that one time in my BC listing because there's no services like there is in Calgary. And I was like, I had to call my husband. I was pouring water on the ground to try to loosen it up. I was like, dear Lord, I cannot do this again.
It's hard. And for $500, imagine like we're a
Mhm.
company, there's multiple people, all these
Yeah.
overhead, like at $500, you're not really making any money. It has to be
Mhm.
on volume. So if we start throwing in signs, it's pretty hard. Maybe we have to charge people more.
It's progressive elaboration, right? It just launched. See how it plays out for the next year or two, and then
It's
evolve
pretty
as
popular.
required.
A lot of leads a week, and I think we're now averaging a couple listings a week.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
so, if we can keep growing that, get to a couple hundred in a couple months, we'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, my goodness, that's great. And are these listings here in Alberta or are they across the country?
We're across
Or
the country, not yet east.
so with that, like how do you envision HonestDoor evolving in the coming years? And I know you've grown a lot already, so it may be hard to see it going farther, but I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, so at first we only tried to grow our website. So I feel like we did that. It was like
Yeah.
hey, we have a website with 5,000 people, then 10, 20, hundreds of thousands. And they're like, okay, cool. The website is its own entity. It works. And then now it's like, okay, well, let's grow like the business on top of that.
Hmm.
And so that part is the new part. What we envision is we have a pretty good product that, and I think people will say this a lot in like businesses, like we have a pretty good product that only a few people use. Like we get to a pretty good product that a lot of people use. And then the following year, I think we'll have a great product that everyone uses. So
Hmm.
for this year, I think we're trying to onboard more people. So I think the goal is to get hundreds and hundreds of these listings. The more listings we have, the more people reach out and they see
Yeah.
honest. And so I think that'll grow organically. So
Mhm.
the goal is to just onboard as many listings as we can and hopefully get to a pretty big number by the end of the year. There's a whole bunch of businesses we intend to work with. And even for like condo developers, residential real estate home builders, we could charge them not even up front, but we charge them upon successful sale. Kind of a no-brainer.
A hundred
Especially
percent.
100 possessions, even if you have one possession, but there's companies that do hundreds and hundreds of builds across the country in one year. So that real estate commission is big.
Yeah, there's big cost savings there,
So
potentially.
I think that's the plan. The site will grow organically, but now we're going to try to get our business to kind of cook on top of that.
What sort of impact do you think growing the business on top of the website is going to have on the larger real estate ecosystem here in Canada, or maybe none?
Well, I mean, it's up to us to grow it. So, like, we want people who are about to sell a house, let's not say buy a house,
Mhm.
think about, hey, should I use the two, three realtors I've known my whole life? Or should I use HonestDoor or a version of HonestDoor?
Mhm.
to see if like there's another option that kind of fits. We're trying to give options to people. So I want people to know that there are options. Right now, people have no idea that they could do all these things, and they don't have to pay the entire fee or whatever. So
Mhm.
you don't want to be competitive in the industry, but with any competition, right? Everyone's going to get better. We're going to have to get better. The agents are going to have to get better at what they do. So I think it's healthy, and I think we just need to give people that choice.
Agreed. And it's like anything, right? If you are playing sports, for instance, and you're constantly playing a team that is, roughly the same or below, you're never going to get better. So if you play with somebody, a real A player, so there's this guy, I interviewed him, his name's Tyler Hassman. He is totally changing things. He's fantastic at video marketing. He doesn't even really sell houses anymore. He does video marketing for other realtors. I've had him on some of my listings. And I'm like, I'm not good at that. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I don't have this personality. And so he is making people get better and think differently. And so for somebody like me, I'm like, well, I'm not a good video tour type person, but I know some and I have great relationships with them. So I'll leverage them. And so to that point, I think like HonestDoor coming in is just making people take stock, maybe, hopefully, on what they need to do to be in the game long term.
But to your point on video editing, and I like debating this because everyone has a different perspective, and you know a lot about real estate on property, and you have your license. If I'm selling my home and I can list it with, again, whoever, why is a video of my home necessary? And I know there's all these things coming out
Mhm.
every month. Virtually stage it, you can do a video, walkthroughs. Other than taking pictures, putting it online, if someone wants to be in a house like this for a price point like this in this neighborhood, why does that video matter? Maybe
I'm
you
just
got
going to give an example because I have a recent use
okay.
case that we can use and debate on. I have this listing in Calgary. It's a beautiful listing. We just launched it, and I brought Tyler in a couple days after we were launched to do this video. The exposure and the amount of leads I get from him because he has such a large audience and he shows all his analytics and stuff. I was like, hot damn, this was worth it for me personally, for this client to get them more exposure. And we have conversations now about potential offers coming in. I'm like, my just normal marketing maybe not have done that, or it would have taken longer and or whatever. But I know this particular client's goals. And I'm like, let's get you to that goal. So I brought in him, and for this listing in this particular circumstance, I think it was totally worth it.
And then the debate back to
Mhm.
that as a friendly debate
Yes, of course. This is all friendly.
is that particular client. Like, I don't doubt that the house got a ton of exposure from their client base. Everyone looked at it and thought it was amazing, even
Mhm.
wanted to see it. But and I don't know what the price point was,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know what I'm going to ask. Did those people, apart from loving it and calling you or calling the video guy next week and saying, maybe do a video of our home or whatever, did the house close from someone who otherwise only saw the video that didn't see it anymore?
So I will do a follow-up with this in about a week because we have conversations happening, and the answer is maybe on this one.
Okay.
And that may not happen for all of them, to your point. Like this could be just
But that maybe, if in order for you to be right, that
yes.
maybe has to be like, wow, we didn't see this house on realtor.ca. We didn't
Mhm.
see it. We had no idea. We just somehow stumbled across this video.
Do you
Loved
know
it.
what's a big one? TikTok. It's
Yeah.
the kids on TikTok. There's a whole demographic out there, which I'm not a TikToker, so I don't know. I can't do
You
that.
know, and my thought, and maybe I'm the majority, maybe I'm the minority. If I'm looking at a neighborhood, whatever, in
Yeah.
Calgary, I know where I want to be. I want to be between, I don't know, around $1 million, whatever that price point might be for a home. And so I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden, like, oh, the new
Something
listing.
pops
And I
up.
can
Yeah.
tell within two photos, even if it's on a blurry iPhone, for example, the photo doesn't even have to
Please,
be.
please don't post blurry iPhone photos. Okay. Just do me a favor. Do not do
But
that.
what I'm saying is, I could tell, I was like, no, no, this house isn't for me. Or all of
Yeah.
a sudden, I'd be like, whoa, this house is for me. I need to go see that house. And I might be on the other end of the spectrum. I'm not saying
Mhm.
all our clients are like this, but for me, if it goes on realtor.ca, goes on HonestDoor, I don't care if it has blurry photos, no video. If you want to buy that house, you're going to buy that house that I think that people are looking for. Unless you're like, oh, I could live on the north side or the south side or the east side or the west side, just a
Yeah.
cool house. I don't
With
know that that's how most people think, though.
I would agree with you. I don't think most people are like, I just want to be anywhere in Calgary. Typically, people have a way smaller net, or Edmonton or Toronto or whatever, insert. But I'll follow up with you because this could be a cool use case. And like I said, I'm not a big video person.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not my forte. So, in disrupting the real estate industry, what role do you think HonestDoor and big data and analytics play, and how, like, you've leveraged them fairly effectively in taking a very complex, cumbersome type CMA activity and streamlining it? So, how do you think like HonestDoor is doing and leveraging this technology disruption, and is where do you see that kind of going in the future? Is there going to be more?
Yeah, I guess our disruption has been this new business model, maybe the price estimates and all the data in one place. When
Mhm.
before you had to go to like, 10 different places or ask someone and they would have to do that work for you. So the fact that the site runs 24/7, you can go get all the information, do whatever you want without us is pretty impressive. The fact that now you can literally click a button, pay, list your house without us even doing anything on HonestDoor. And then from that we have to follow up and get a couple more details before we list it on the MLS. But it's all like pretty seamless, like very little
How do
work.
they do the photos? Do they upload their own photos and FinTrack forms and whatnot?
Our broker actually sends them all those FinTrack forms. But in terms of photos, some people think like me, like, oh, whatever, I'll have a nice iPhone. And they take the photos. And to me, I'm like, hey, those look good. Post them. People hire a photographer.
Yeah.
Sure, hire a photographer. But anyway, it's like you drag and drop them. It's like putting an ad up on
Uh,
it.
that's
And
easy. Marketplace. It's like marketplace essentially.
it's very easy and you don't even have to
Mhm.
ask us. I mean, we're here if you need us. But to your point, like, I mean, could the CMAs become better? Yes. Could our honest door price become better? Yeah. It's very hard though. I feel like with so much tech, you get to a point where it's very accurate in Alberta because we tend to have more data here than other provinces. Very accurate in BC. Some places it's worse, some places it's better. Every city we have
Yeah,
our
of course.
ads. But it's almost like you get to a point where we could do 6 months more of work on AI and
Yeah.
then I go from 80% accurate to 82.
82.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Great minds there. We both said
Yeah.
82.
Yeah. And then you're kind of like, no, 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 that's stupid. We got to focus on something else. So
Mhm.
maybe there's going to be a way where, all these robots come into your house and evaluate your property as a human would, but it's still pretty tricky. I still don't recommend buying like sight unseen. It's so much you
Oh,
discover
yeah.
when you go into a home, and that part's not going away. So as fast as tech's moving, I don't think,
It's still people.
yeah.
Does your broker assist the homeowner in their negotiations?
Well, as you know, that's a fine line.
Yeah, very fine.
No,
Because some people may not know even, anyways,
yeah,
we
we
don't have
explain
to get
to
into
them
that
that,
because,
hey, refer to this blog, to that blog, to our own blog.
yeah,
Here's what you should do. But no, we don't get into the thick of it. Like, yeah, they came back with this. Should we do this? Or
yeah,
that's on you.
that's good because there's obviously so much risk there too. And
I mean, we
it's,
do help as much as we can. Just,
mhm.
you're like a normal person. Someone's asking like a really, really simple question.
Yeah.
But it's just like anything. It's like people have sold cars, people have sold everything. People just like comfort, but you could call a friend, call anyone. It's not like
Yeah.
this magical agent, knows the magic number. They don't know who's sitting on the other side of.
Hmm. Well, it's an emotional thing at the end of the day, right? Like there's emotions tied to it. So people, that skews things a little bit anyway.
But for someone like me, and I'm not even like that much of a control freak, I like to know who's on the other side of that. And that gives me the
Hmm.
opportunity because I'm now getting to talk to that person or I'm showing that home. So I know,
Hmm.
they didn't really like the kitchen. We should tell them that, maybe we'll fix a couple of those things. But if you're not there, you don't know any of
Hmm.
those.
No, that's a really good point. Here's a question that is kind of an advice piece. So for other entrepreneurs that are looking to disrupt any industry, it doesn't have to be real estate, what advice would you give them based on your experience?
Like, I think we said even before the call, people called you and said, hey, I want to become an agent. And you say,
Oh
why?
yeah.
I do think that in any career you get jaded. Like people have talked to me and said, I want to get into advertising, I want to get in billboards, outdoor billboards, big ones, highway ones. And then I'm so jaded. I'm like, I don't know, you don't want to do that. But
That's
you
true.
don't want
I'm laughing so
to,
hard because it's so true.
yeah. And like your business, if I called you saying I wanted to become an agent and you didn't know me, you'd probably try to talk me out of it for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is hard. And I've said this before on other podcasts. You should do it. I think both ways. Like it's the only thing that you should ever do. But
I
it's
like that.
also hard and it's challenging. And then, you have to get revenue somehow. But how do you get revenue if you're just trying to prove out a product? Then you have to get investors
Mhm.
to believe in you and just your product without revenue because you don't have any money. But there are other investment that they could invest in, makes money and they have a product. And now there's so many other shiny objects that people can invest in. So you
Mhm.
have to have some sort of edge. So like I came into this not being a software developer, not knowing really anything about software development. So it was hard because I had to hire, and to hire, you had to have money. So if I didn't have the exit before and I didn't have money, I couldn't have done it. I guess what I'm saying is entrepreneurship is very hard if you have no money. If you worked for a while, saved some money, doing it on the side of your day job, you should do that. But to stop, drop, and roll, it is just hard because you may not get to your goal, and there'll be so much pressure on you to like live normally and not just
Of
eat.
course, especially when you have a family, right?
Yeah. So it's very easy for me to say, you should be an entrepreneur. It's the best to make way more money. Who wants to go work for a salary? Cool. Nice advice, Dan. But I have all these
Not practical,
abilities.
yeah.
And I understand that now that it's a privilege to be able to do that. So if you can try
Mhm.
to do it on the side, try to get some traction and then go in, but I would never tell anyone to go in cold because it is hard. Like you said, like 2019 and 2024 now, that's not yesterday. You had to have lived for that long too.
Mm-hmm. The thing that really makes me chuckle is sometimes people go into entrepreneurship because they don't want a boss, or they go into entrepreneurship because it's flexible. And it's like, hell no, it's not. Like you're working, you don't know everything, so you're doing all these other jobs that you don't really know. Like maybe you're shitty at accounting, but you have to do your books, right? Like the tax man's coming. So it is not for the faint of heart, to your point.
Yeah, no, you work all day, and for sure you don't if you're not an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
I'm responding to emails, until the second I go to sleep at midnight. I guess I would urge people to make sure they're doing something flexible because sometimes
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, like in tech, is usually scalable. But there's so many other entrepreneurs that say, I'm going to open up a coffee shop. To me, it's like, if that's your passion, great. But if you're not thinking about opening up 200 coffee shops, I don't think you should do it because what essentially you've done is you're not your own boss, but you have all the pressure and you end up having to work at that particular place. You're not rolling around like Bezos. Doesn't really like work there anymore. So I think that so many people go into entrepreneurship, but what they end up doing is they end up just creating themselves a job. And
hmm
that's like the opposite what you should be doing. You got to create this unbelievable, scalable product that works across the country. And if you live in it, at least you're being rewarded because it's so scalable.
Yeah, entrepreneurship, it can be really exciting, but I think you actually really need to like what you're doing or have some sort of curiosity or passion. People throw around passion a lot, but like you just got to kind of like whatever to a degree, or you're just going to quit. Like it takes a lot of grit to go through the shit storms. Would you agree with that statement?
I do. And I also think that so many people crap on, oh, if you just like making money, that's not enough. You got to be so passionate. I still feel like we live in this culture where everyone's obsessed with you need to be passionate for the reasons you
Yeah.
just, those are good points because you make
hmm
once you hit a brick wall. But
hmm
I still feel like if you're really into like trying to make a lot of money and that's what you're into, like I don't think people should be scared to say that.
Because it's honest.
And I think that people should say that more like, hey, I'm like really obsessed to have really nice clothes, cars, and a house. Like, I don't know that that's that shallow. It's like so many people want those things, but so many people say, oh, well, I'm so passionate about this. If you can have them all, you need
Yeah.
the drive for money too, apart from the passion.
Yeah, I don't think capitalism's dead, in my opinion, but that's a whole different kind of conversation. I'm sure we're going to get some hate mail for that. So, last couple of questions here, and then I'll let you get back to your day. In your opinion, what do you think is going to be the biggest disruptor to the real estate industry here in 2024 and beyond?
Everyone's going to hear about HonestDoor.
hmm
Everyone's going to use our services. I honestly think that services like HonestDoor are going to gain a lot of popularity. And I also think that people don't feel as rich as they did a couple of years ago when interest rates were low. I think that now people are like, wow, if I can save $25,000, like that's an insane amount of money after tax. If you're in a higher tax bracket, that's like 50 grand. So maybe saving money and actually thinking through everything might become cool again.
I think you're just giving people too much credit there, the whole thinking through and critical thinking piece, but I like it. I like where you're going. I like what.
That's what I think, and that's what we're
Mhm.
betting on. And I think sites like HonestDoor will continue to grow. I was actually super bullish on the company Open Door US, which were their service was, we're going to come and we're going to buy your home, and it would actually be more expensive than paying an agent. But I just thought that, yeah, okay, you're going to lose all this money, but you can transact right now and you can have a possession in like 6 months from now, and you just literally click it on a calendar and they wire you the money today and you're done. I thought,
Mhm.
wow, that was unbelievable. Their stock's down 98%. No one uses it, and it's a terrible.
Mhm.
I was wrong. I mean, that wasn't my business, but maybe it was too expensive. And
Mhm.
maybe no one wanted to lose 50, 60, 70, $80,000 every time they bought a house. And obviously, looking back on that, it makes a lot of sense. So we're the opposite of that. So I think that hopefully we'll
Mhm.
take advantage of it.
That's the wholesaling concept that they were using down there. But the States, I gotta give them credit. Like they're a bit of a dumpster fire in some areas, but like they are so entrepreneurial, and I'm constantly seeing such cool real estate type startups start up. And I'm like, who would have thought of that? Or like, I love watching what they're doing, and like prop tech and even stuff with mortgages and all sorts of stuff happening down there that I'm constantly like,
Yeah, there's
wow,
something about
people
an
need to know.
I mean, I get it. There's more people and there's more money in the US, but even their mentality is different and they're so confident. I'll
Hmm.
go into like a conference and I'll talk to this American. This guy doesn't even have a product. It's on a napkin and he's yelling at investors saying, this is going to be the future. This is the best. Here we have like millions of customers, all this funding. And we're like, well, it might go.
It's so Canadian. You're just too polite.
It's really different. I think we can learn a lot from the American entrepreneurs.
I would agree. And maybe we're just all too nice. Like, hey, excuse me, do you think maybe, okay, no, next time, all right. Like it's so
I
funny.
know. And then we wonder why, like, some entrepreneur on nothing raises hundreds of millions in the US.
I know, like a unicorn. They become a unicorn company, and you're like, what am I doing wrong?
So maybe you just got to think bigger.
Yeah, exactly. All right, there we go. That will be I'll take that on my personal development plan for 2024. Think big.
Yeah.
So I love asking guests that come on about their favorite book, or maybe it's a training. So I'm going to ask you as well. What would be your favorite book recommendation or training or whatever that you would like to share?
I wish I had an unbelievable answer. And I know some of your entrepreneurs or whoever you have on probably read so much and they have all these amazing recommendations. I actually have a book I'm reading. It's not the world's best book, but it's just the story of Nike there.
Shoe Dog?
Yeah, Shoe Dog. Can't seem to finish it. And I read The Little Mermaid and Pinocchio. Those
Well, it's the stage of your kids, right? Like it's
So I feel like it's just so busy with little kids and work and stuff. I'd love to just sit down and read more. One book I really read, and I did mention it maybe somewhere along the lines, is King Richard, the father of Serena and Venus Williams.
oh, okay.
A really good book for business. I think it's a really good book for how he was able to inspire these kids to do what they ended up doing. I thought was super cool. Not a pure business book, but it's a very cool story and very, very inspiring. So.
I think it's always applicable too, though, right? He obviously did something, right? He has two all-star athletes that he helped raise and inspire and show grit. And my husband read a book, and I think it was called Grit. My son was going to sign up for power skating, and the coach was like, read this book first. And if your son doesn't have the grit right now, like it's a waste of time. And I was like, that's kind of rude, but it was so good. And I see this with my kids, and they're little as well. But I'm like, if you're gonna fall down, get back up. Or like, I don't know, maybe it's because my oldest is a bit more sensitive. My mom and dad weren't like crazy sensitive with me, but I'm like, if I cry, they were like, get going again. And they had me in lots of sports. So it's hard to watch my son sometimes. I'm like, and then I panic. I'm like, he has no grit. It's gonna be a failure. I go down these rabbit holes. I'm like, no, he's 7. He'll be fine. So the Serena, her dad, and Venus's dad, like he did something right.
That's to be determined. I mean, he did something right in giving them everything to become superstars, which they did. Rest, we won't know. Are they happy?
Yeah.
Do they hate their dad? Do they hate their lives?
Well, look at Tiger and his dad. Bit of a dynamic there.
I don't know anymore. I think back in the day, we used to think that people could only succeed becoming the very, very best, or to become the best golfer, the best tennis player. But now that that's so competitive and there's all this other way to try to make a living that isn't, super difficult, you almost don't need to do that. I mean, what kind of life like, I mean, I wish, my daughters became Serena and Venus, but at the same time, are we going to hit a ball over a net, 1,000 times today and
Yeah.
30,000 times this month? And that's what we're going to be doing for your life? That sounds like also a pretty limited
Oh
existence.
my gosh. Well, and then you have these kid YouTubers that unbox toys that are making millions of dollars. And like they weren't the best at anything. They were just
I
the
might
first
tell
and the
I might
loudest.
just unbox the toys for millions. We'll get that front.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking some time. I know you're busy and you have young kids and a busy business. So I do really thank you from the bottom of my heart to take this time.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation and exploring both current and predicted future real estate trends. Want to keep the conversation going? You can find us, Future RE, on both Instagram and TikTok.